Now, this absolutely disgusting paedophile situation, paedophile grooming gangs in Rochdale, we're talking about particularly here. A report into this is to be made public today.
Yes, it's expected to set out the failings by senior police and council bosses for not doing enough to help hundreds of youngsters, mainly poor white girls, from abuse by Asian men.
Right. This is what gets me straight away. Whatever failings there are with the police, and I'm not saying that shouldn't be highlighted, it should be highlighted. Why are we taking our eye off the ball? It's not the police that are abusing these young girls. It's these Asian gangs. So why, again, are we taking our attention away from where this is actually coming from? A press conference is going to be held later this morning to discuss the findings, and the Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham, will be there, as well as whistleblower Maggie Oliver.
Well, joining us now is Specialist Abuse Solicitor Alan Collins. Good morning to you. Listen, it's interesting that we'll be hearing from Maggie Oliver later. I believe this report by the Mayor of Manchester was brought about following on from a big documentary in which Maggie featured, talking about a lot of the failings of the huge Rochdale scandal, which we've seen the big prosecutions for. But I believe we can expect from this report that actually they're saying, unlike what, you know, the local council and the police would like to have us believe, this is not done and dusted. There are still a lot of people out there who are involved in this who have never been brought to justice. Do you think that's likely to be what we hear today?
Certainly, and even if we didn't hear that, I think that's a fact that we all need to be conscious of. This isn't going to go away. So it's extremely important that we have these reports and we understand what is happening, and we all has happened, but we need to appreciate that there's no room for complacency because these terrible issues are still with us.
Yeah, and so are these terrible men. And I just, again, Alan, I have this thing that, OK, the police may have failed, somebody should be wrapped over the knuckles, reform should happen, but let's not lose sight of the danger that is out there and how this actually exists and the way these gangs just seem to get away with this. And it's always, let's blame someone else. Let's not mention the war. No, let's not mention where this is emanating from.
There should be no-go zones, if I can use some phraseology there. I think one of the errors that we see from that's highlighted in these reports is there's concerns over sensitivities of not being seen to identify particular sections of society and so on. As I said, it should be confronted head on. There should be no areas of life or society which should be treated with kid gloves, so to speak.
Alan,
otherwise, we're going to have these ongoing problems.
Yeah, what is going to happen today? Are we going to hear about this victims bill? There's a victims bill before Parliament. What has happened to that?
Well, that's very important that you've raised that, because one of the issues is the complete lack of accountability. I'm sure if you spoke to victims and survivors, they would say it's very difficult, if not impossible, to get accountability. And that is being able to hold the system and individuals to account their failings in allowing the sexual abuse to happen. And the Victims Bill in Parliament, which is designed to give victims and survivors a greater say in the criminal justice process, which is great, is, in my opinion, undermined by an express provision that's made in the bill by the politicians to exclude accountability. In other words, the politicians are saying, in my opinion, we're giving you these rights, but on the other hand, if these rights are not observed, don't come to us. And that is completely wrong, in my opinion, because we've seen here, and maybe we look back to last week, the post office scandal, there's a complete lack of accountability in the system for those who need to get justice and to achieve that accountability. That is a major failing in respect of all of this, is the complete lack of an ability to hold to account those responsible for child protection when it goes wrong.
Well, especially, you're right, when the victims are children as well, those protections need to be even stronger. Thank you very much for talking to us, Alan Collins, partner at Hugh James Solicitors.